if I can work for this international company from Nigeria, it means I can work for an international company anywhere in the world. I used to make this joke like, not because of the football we're coming here. This is literally the only place I've spoken pigeon this whole week. I don't know what helps people get jobs. I'm going to be honest, but I know what to tell you to do in terms of getting your hands dirty.
Hi everyone, my name is Yewandi and I am the host of the Now That We're Here podcast. The Now That We're Here podcast aims to tell the stories of immigrants who have left their home countries and now call another country home. We want to hear about their good times, the bad times, and what's next while they're here. I think the main thing is to share the unique stories of immigrants that we don't hear about in our everyday lives. We work with these people, we see these people, but we don't know how they've come here. We don't know how they are dealing with grief, how they are dealing with loneliness. And we want to share these stories with the hopes that the lessons and the experiences will help another immigrant feel less alone and feel more at home in their new country and in their new home. I hope you listen on YouTube, on Spotify, and everywhere else you get podcasts. I hope you subscribe, I hope you comment, and I hope you share. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope the lessons really help to improve the quality of your life in your new home. Thank you, and bye. Hi everyone, how you doing? Today I have Nnanna on the Now That We're Here podcast, and I'm super excited to talk to him about how he got here, his immigration journey, and just his career journey general. He's an amazing PM, and that's all I know about him. So I'm going to allow him to introduce himself now. So Nnanna, tell us about you, what you do, what you like to do, and how you want people to remember you.
Okay. Hi, Yewandi. Thank you for having me. My name is Nnanna, and you said I'm a PM, but I do many things. I like to build stuff on the internet, and being a Nigerian who grew up at a specific time, most of the stuff I've built on the internet have to do with money in any way, shape, or form. Aside from that, I like to read a lot of like finance and fiction. Literature, I run a lot. I am actually doing something where I'm running every single day this calendar year. I've missed only 2 days because I had to travel, but I regretted those 2 days because on the day that I traveled, I woke up by 4 a.m. to actually meet that day's quota. So it was the next day that I missed and the next 2 days. But yeah, trying to run every single day this year. I am married. I live in the Netherlands currently. And yeah, we've known each other for 2-3 years. And I want to be like you when I grow up. So yes.
Please. Me, I want to be like you. So this chicken and egg, we need to figure it out, like, so that we're not chasing ourselves. But I think that's very interesting. So I didn't know that you're into finance. So that's something I'm actually curious about, like going into finance. But we can talk about that a bit later. So yeah, just as you said, we met just a few years ago. I knew you a little because I know Lade. I knew Lade from the internet, and then we followed ourselves on social media platforms. So I kind of like also knew about you before we met in person. Then you moved to Berlin, and then we met in person, I think 2-ish years ago. So, but what made you travel? Like, what was your journey to getting out of Nigeria? Because now I know you lived in Berlin for a while, and then now you live in Netherlands, and that's a whole journey in itself. But let's take it back to why did you leave Nigeria in the first place, and what was your journey from Nigeria first to Germany and then to Netherlands?
I like after school, like wanted to leave Nigeria. Okay, I'm back. Word. So I think after school, I wanted to leave Nigeria, but was working, tried to see if I could either save up for school or just find like paid employments in any country in the world. I didn't have a preference because everyone at the time was doing Canada. So I got into the Canadian pool, like got to the waiting period, got to the pool. Then I think just before COVID, I think they skyrocketed the cutoff points. So then it became harder for me or people at my point level to get to Canada at that point. So it was like, if COVID didn't happen, I'm probably in Canada right now. And COVID happened, and then it became near impossible for that to happen. And then I think after, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Figuring it out. Then think in 2021, few things happened personally in my life, and was like, yeah, we have to leave. And we were like, okay, these are the places we want to go to. These are the places we can realistically go to. These are the places we don't want to go to for XYZ reasons, which we won't get into, not to ruffle any feathers. And then kind of settled at the time of Europe. So it was like, let's just find like companies within our skill sets. We know a few people who had left Nigeria directly to major companies in Europe, and they were sponsored from Nigeria. Many of them were also working remotely in Nigeria at the time. So it was like, can we get one of these companies to just sponsor us to work remotely first and move? Or can we just move with that? So after working remotely for a while, both of us, we also got I got a job that brought me to Germany at the time. That was how I moved, really made the final decision to move for employment purposes.
Okay, so this is something that you guys did deliberately then. So like you guys sat down, calculated it that first of all, these are the countries you want to move to. And then second of
Yes.
all, you were like, I want to move to like a move that would sponsor you. So you guys didn't want to like
Yeah.
jackpot with your own money and go by yourself. But what kind of like helped you apart from knowing people, right? What kind of like the information you had that helped you to kind of like streamline the countries you would move to? And then, so that's the first question. So how did you kind of like do that streamlining to say, this is where I want to go to, this is what I don't want to go, this is where I don't want to go to, like the criteria? That's the first question. And then the second one is, I know both of you don't code, right? We hear about software engineers traveling or jackpotting. Like for me, when I got sponsored to come to Germany, I didn't know any other products person. But I know you are a product, like you travel to product management. Maybe tell me if you came in through another way. And your wife also she's not like a software engineer, right? And there are a lot of software engineers that have traveled, but not a lot of people in other careers. So how did you guys kind of like figure that out? That's the
I think, yeah, I think let me start from the back, the second part of the question, like about the career part. Just disclosure, I used to be an engineer like probably 5 years ago. So I had the experience, but yes, I did not leave Nigeria as an engineer. And in terms of what's informed decision, there's lots of research that goes into leaving the country. I can't get into all of that right now, but I think we looked at like salaries, we looked at cost of living, the average cost of living, what it would cost us to maintain something along the same lifestyle we had in Nigeria, how much it would cost, where are the places that could pay us these amounts of monies that we had targeted, and in what roles, and do they have like openings, or is there like great opening for the roles we currently had or even the roles we wanted to have in the future. So these are some of the things that's kind of went into the research. And then there's a very nice website called Numbio that you can use to literally compare cost of living in any city in the world, like average salaries, basic salaries, what the most popular jobs in this country's cities are, the cost of a one bed, a two bed, cost of commuting, types of commuting. So like these were so many. We probably had a whole Google Sheets at the time, like during the research phase, that helped with streamlining. These are the places we are not going to go to or we're not looking at. But in reality, when you're now shooting like thousands of applications every month, you start adjusting and be like, it's only bad to go here if this is where we're staying currently. So these were some of the things that happened during that process.
interesting. So cost of living was very important for you guys. Did you guys also think about things like language? Was that a big border for you, or you're just like wherever we go to, we'll figure it out there?
No, it wasn't a big bother because he had started school and at the time, and part of like she was also taking language lessons, and we were like, it's language, everyone is learning it. There's a path, like realistically speaking, everyone tells you can learn a new language within 3 to 5 years. So that was like you can survive on English for X number of years, but if you want to fully assimilate into wherever you find yourself within 3 to 5 years, you should be able to pick up the language and converse in the language. And that felt doable. If people are doing it, why can't we do it? So language really wasn't a barrier.
Actually, because it seemed like you guys had an open mind. Most people, even before even more, I wouldn't consider anywhere apart from the US, UK, Canada, because that's where everyone really, like everyone in my network was going to, and then it felt like I was flung to Germany. It was like, you have to come here, else you're not going anywhere else. Okay. So, but how was like the interview process and finding the company? So you mentioned that you knew a few people that are working remotely. Did you specifically target those companies that were sponsoring people? Did you start to work remotely at first? What kind of like the process of from the application process to finding the kind of company that would sponsor you and then getting here? Then also the visa process. How long did it take you guys? Did you have to wait for long? Yeah.
So I think when we decided to like, hey, let's put like double down on this, looking for like companies that would sponsor, because I think I worked remotely within Nigeria for a period, and she also had experience working remotely. But those roles, like while those were very short term roles, it was like those roles, I wouldn't say they required us to be in Nigeria, but they were remote roles and we were in Nigeria. So we were just working remotely from Nigeria. And that experience was like, hey, if I can work for this international company from Nigeria, it means I can work for an international company anywhere in the world. The first thing we did was to reach out to people within our network who were already in locations we thought we would like to be in. Like, start with the first thing, hey, can you make a referral for me, your company? I saw this role. And that helps with like interviewing experience and knowing more about like companies in these countries. And it was really a lot of work at the time, because like I could wake up in the morning and just open LinkedIn, filter by a country, filter by my role, and just hit apply multiple times. Then do the same thing on like various job boards, to the point where I got to a point where I tried to automate the process with minimal results or with minimal success, but try to automate the process to increase my numbers. That's the application part. Then came the interviewing, which was also interviewing multiple needs for multiple reasons, going through the whole process, whether it's first stage to final stage, getting to offers, negotiation, getting the rejections and starting afresh. So I think from the moment we made the hard decision to like double down on this thing, to the moment I landed in Germany, it was probably give or take 5 months. I also acknowledged that I was lucky in that regard. Like from the moment I pulled up my computer and said, XYZ location, to the moment I landed in Germany, probably 5 months. I got my offer, the offer that I used to leave Germany. I got it 3 months into the process. Then I waited about 6 weeks for the visa. Like I applied for the visa, got an appointment, went for the like between the visa appointment and leaving Nigeria was actually 3 weeks. But between applying for the visa and leaving Nigeria was probably 10 weeks.
That's actually fast because I had to wait for 4 months to get an appointment first. Yeah, and then just as you said, between appointment and leaving was 3 weeks. I don't know why Germany does that with their visa, because they give you this really short visa. Yeah, so you have to kind of like scramble up and then buy your ticket and then yeah.
I think I told a few friends, like, because like I think after going for the appointment, I started telling people like, hey, but in that case, people who have left Nigeria, people who have gone to the UK, who have gone to Canada and all that, and how they like with a whole month, they even do parties and stuff and all this stuff. And then my visa comes and I see, hey, I have to be, the employer gets the visa and they're like, hey, Bruce, you have to be here in 14 days. And you're like, I just got this thing. I don't know what to do next. And you know, the traditional Nigerian thing where you pack up all your stuff, sell some stuff, shift some stuff. Like I literally had 2 weeks to do all that, get a flight ticket. That was easy for me, thankfully. Get a flight ticket, leave the country. And like, there's no settlement. So it just hits you like you left the country in less than 2 weeks. Then people who take all the time in the world to like get through the leaving Nigeria process. So I didn't have that period of this has really happened. I just got the visa. Next thing I was on a plane.
Yeah, it happened so fast. I just really remembered mine now because I did have a Stanford party, but when I got my visa back after my appointment, they actually rejected my visa. I had a job, I had everything, and I'd already heard that this thing is sharp, sharp. So I think maybe I already bought my. I was just in a very, very funny place, and then I got my. I was so excited. Like, okay, now it's time. Let me buy my ticket today, and I opened my pass, whatever, and then the letter fell out. You've been rejected, and I was just like, and this thing is in German. What? What's happening? But luckily, I had an agency that was helping me. So they had the lawyer, and then those guys stepped in, and then they called me back to bring back my passport and they gave me my visa back. But I just remembered that because that was a while ago. So because of that, I had time to do like a sample party and then call my friend.
Lucky you and unluckily for you at the same time. But
Yes.
yeah, most people who come to Germany don't have the time to do Sanford parties.
No, yeah, a lot of people just go, right? Which is something. Did you have any friend that was just like maybe you didn't inform that you were traveling, and then maybe they started to feel some type of way, or did moving fracture any relationships you had in Nigeria after you go to Germany, considering the speed? Because your whole process of searching to finding was also very fast, right? So considering the speed, considering the whole change, that also adjusting to Germany, do you think it's affected some relationship with friends, with family in your own case?
I can't speak to that. So they would have to be the ones to tell me. But after almost 3 years, no one hates me to the best of my knowledge. But I think while I was searching for like actively searching, a few people knew what I was doing. So I guess it's the thing about carrying people along because I didn't know it was going to take me 2 weeks to leave the country. Like, if we're being honest, I did not know that. So, but people, like as many people as I could tell at the time, knew like I was actively trying to leave. They also didn't know where I was actively trying to leave. So, because it could have been anywhere, like if it was Poland, if it was Netherlands, if it was Belgium, if it was France, I would have gone. So, like people, a few people knew I was actively looking to leave or actively looking to leave the employment crowds. Like people knew when I got like a few offers and a few final stages, I called people to help me with interviews. So that was something that a few of my friends knew. But in regards of like, hey, you left quick, I explained because I had to leave. That one was totally not in my control. So I just tried to tell as many people as I could. And of course, when I also got to Germany, tried to tell as many people as I could and keep in contact. So if anyone hates me as a result of that, I do not know.
No, I think that's actually fair because yeah, I just think people there's this bad rep that people have with oh my friend traveled and didn't tell me, and it's like the person as if you're village people. But yeah, that's why I asked about that. But moving on, so now you get to Germany. What was your process of settling in, considering you moved with a job? Because people that come in via school, maybe they come in before school resumes, so they have time to search for an apartment, meet people. Well, I know for me, I came in on a Friday and then I landed on a Friday or Saturday and I started work on Monday and I've been working since then. So for you, how was like the whole process of settling in? Or did you come at what point in the weather did you come in? Was there like any culture shocks you experienced as soon as you got to Germany?
Yeah, I landed in December, just before Christmas. So it's the middle of winter. I landed on a Sunday. Think I landed on a Monday. I was to start work on Wednesday. So landed on Monday morning to start work on Wednesday, which is literally in 2 days. So the next day, which was Tuesday, the first thing I have to do because I was working with a relocation agency. So like I'd already gotten like a list of things to do when you first land from them and from my employer at the time. So like the first thing I had to do was like go get the registration appointment on like Tuesday, then go get a bank account on Thursday before everyone closes for Christmas. So like everyone officially goes on leave for Christmas. So I had to do these things within the first week of landing because if I didn't do any of them, it meant like no salary in December, first of all. It meant no registration in December and it meant nothing for you till January. And I think I got an apartment from my employer for 1 month. So I needed to do all those 1 week tasks if I could start looking for my own apartments immediately. So those were some of the things I had to do. So of course, in all honesty, settling was hard. It was difficult. It's Christmas, it's winter, all those things. You hear from family and all that. And you have to just do all those things. And the next week, of course, people go on leave. So you're pretty much trying to figure stuff out till January before everyone comes back. And it was kind of towards the end of COVID. So there was still like masking and social distancing and quarantine rules in place that I still had to comply with as someone who had just landed in the country. So all these things kind of made it very difficult at the time. It was very difficult. So they made settling in very difficult. I think now, whenever someone asks me about settling in Germany, I just tell them the truth, like just budget for the difficulty, like emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. Budget for the difficulty because it will happen.
So on your end, what would you say was the hardest part about settling into Germany?
If I'm Well, being honest, I would say it's the fact that you had to do all those things and still show up for work. Like
Mhm.
you just spoke about people who go to school where they have like they can come in 1 month before school, look for an apartment set. So you came for school, so you have that quote unquote, even if it's 1 month or 1 week of want to say freedom or 1 week of trying to figure things out before the reason you came here starts. Well, I landed on a Monday. I had to be at work on Wednesday. I had week one tasks that's related to the government, as well as week one tasks that are related to my employer. And capitalism, you have to find a way to make all of them happen within 8 hours in a calendar day every day. So it was trying to settle into the country, learn the language, learn the processes, and also settle into the job, trying to figure both of them out at the same time within the same 8 hours. That was really difficult.
Yeah, I totally agree because it's like it's a completely different environment to the work environment. Did you have any like culture shocks with like how they work here different from how you were working back in Nigeria? And also even the living, right? Like just settling into day-to-day tasks. Things like, for example, shops don't open on Sundays. It's not
Oh, yeah.
normal everywhere.
My
Were there
first
any
culture shock. My first culture shock was like because the second week of my stay here was Christmas week. So we're on a work call. I think it was on the 3rd or 24th. We're on a work call and I'm still like I figured out where the shops are. It's Christmas week, so I know I'm going to go for Christmas shopping and all that. Like I've already told one of my friends, like, hey, I'm going to go, so just come through. And then in the middle of the call, someone goes, hey, Nnanna, I forgot to tell you, all the shops are closing today by 2 and nowhere is going to be open until 27. I think you should drop off the call because I don't think you have anything in your house. And this guy is telling me this thing at 12:30. So like I drop off the call, quickly rush, like, and then go buy some stuff. Then I'm still entering the shops and you're like, shops are closed. I call my friend. I'm like, guy, I bought XYZ. I didn't buy Z. Like, do you have anything? We'll figure out how to make. So that was the first culture shock. Like the shops are opening on Sunday, first of all. Then of course, nowhere, everywhere closes by 2 on the 24th. So that was the first thing that hit me in the face. Like, whoa. And like, if that didn't happen, I would have literally been hungry all through Christmas 2 weeks into the country. So that would have been something else.
Yeah, that happened. I think last year Christmas we traveled and we came back on 23rd or was it 24th? We came out some days before Christmas. We didn't have food in the house. We got back and then no restaurants, no store. We went everywhere we could. No restaurant, no store. The thing that we actually went hungry. The thing that saved us is that we got invited to Christmas parties. So as soon as the first party, we're just like, look, we're coming with our takeaway packs because we don't have this house. I hope that's okay. And luckily, they're nice people in Berlin. So they're like, please come. There was not too, enough people that had too much food, which was really good because we could just, that's how we actually had food until almost New Year, or that's 1 or 2 days that people open before New Year. It was the ghetto. So when you moved to Berlin, how easy was it for you to meet people, make friends? Also considering how hard, like how you had to settle into government task and then work task, then meeting people, socializing. How easy was that for you?
Um, it was also very difficult for me. And I'm probably going to say it was still the combination of like quarantine, social distancing, all the COVID rules around the time because I knew 3 people before coming. Like there were 3 people I reached out to specifically that I was coming. So that was before I even landed. And they were like, sure. So one of them even brought a SIM card for me the next day. I'm still using up till now. So shout out to Hani. So, and we're like, hey, we're going to come and show you around like the first week at least. So all those first week tasks, but everyone is working. You have to acknowledge that I think one of them had to travel for Christmas as well. And then it was still in the middle of COVID. So you really couldn't go to as many places as possible. So I think for the first 3 months, it was a bit difficult because you had to do all the planning and stay within the places you knew. I think I went to go and play football a few times with them. So that's how I knew people. But I think for me, meeting people became easier around April, which was coincidentally the day they lifted all the lockdown rules. So I think that was actually the first day we met because we had like the dinner that I was invited to. It was like everyone is now posting stuff and doing stuff. So I got invited to this dinner. I meet everyone. So it became easier from there because you now meet one person who knows multiple people who knows multiple people. you're now just vibing on your own. But it was difficult at first. I would say even of lockdown helped, but before then it was really hard because you already had to plan and they had all those rules then.
I know. I think I like that you mentioned, like, because you did mention three things that were really helpful, right? So you reached out to some people before you came, because I think that's very important. It gives everyone like a soft landing, or at least you know who to ask questions to. And there's also something about landing in an airport you've never been to by yourself, in a place where you don't speak the language and having to figure out everything by yourself. Did you have someone come pick you from the airport, for example?
No, I called the cab. Like, that was actually funny because weirdly, I don't know how that happened because my battery was full when I was coming out from the airport. I know that. And I used my phone to give the immigration officers what I was now trying to call Uber. And I even connected to the airport Wi-Fi. Then something happened to my phone, which I still don't know up till now. So I just had to call a cab, one of those airport cabs. And he said it was on the cash he was going to collect. I was looking at this guy. I only had 60 euros in cash. I had card, I had money on my phone, and I wanted to use Uber. I was like, see, I'm going here. You have 60 euros. If this trip is over 60 euros, I can't pay you. I was like, let's go. So I called the cab, got to my apartments that I already got before coming. So that was how I left the airport.
Actually, that makes sense. But I think that was also the same thing. So I got, like, I had to get the cab from the airport, but I was just like, oh, I wish someone was picking me up. Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's interesting that your phone just died suddenly. So now going back, so now you've met people, you settled in to Germany, at least that I know. Then you had to now move to Netherlands. So what was that process like for you? Like, why did you have to move and how did you go about it?
So for me, moving was like, it became a situation where we wanted to like, hey, where do you want to call home long term? Like I went back to the Nigeria part where it was a situation of you just want to leave. So first of all, my employer moved me from Germany to the Netherlands. Like that's the condensed version of the story. So let's just keep it there. My employer moved me from Germany to the Netherlands, but that one also had a lot of depth in between myself and the employer, which is really it's caution for a whole other day. And then that happened and I had to also move in time again, move within the time with capitalism wait for nobody. So when you get a date, you get a date. And that was the date I was told to move. So I had to also pack up my things and move from Berlin to Amsterdam.
Okay, so someone has now lived in both places. What would you say are like the key similarities and differences? Because when you're in Nigeria, abroad is just abroad. But then when you now travel, you now know that there are differences between different places. So both cities are in Europe, right? And they can just seem like a blend or a mix. But now that you have lived, I think now you lived in the Netherlands for at least over 6 months, and you lived in Berlin for at least almost 2 years. What would you say are like the key differences between both cities and in like working, cost of living, in living just generally, people? Yeah. What are the key differences that you tell anyone to pay attention to?
Starting with what you said, cost of living, it's actually more expensive in the Netherlands than in Germany. The Netherlands is also a smaller country. I think it's like 12 million compared to like 80 million of Germany. Berlin is very big compared to Amsterdam. And so these are some of the things that stand out to you immediately. Cost of living, again, I know people who actually drive to border towns in Germany to get their groceries rather than buying groceries within the Netherlands. Like they just drive to whether it's Frankfurt, Hamburg, Düsseldorf, wherever it's close to them, get their groceries and come back. That's how expensive it is. Then in terms of similarities, it's Amsterdam and Berlin. At least it's the same international vibe because you're going to hear more English in the streets of Amsterdam than in Berlin, but it's really the same international vibe in terms of English, in terms of local language, in terms of foreign languages as well. And I think another thing I kind of like is really that it's a small city. Like you were talking about Christmas parties, like all the parties we used to attend. And it's different, like where you know that the chances of you going to two different parties in one day in Berlin or two different places in one day, like we wanted to hang out, was very low. Remember the first time I visited here for a friend's birthday, which would happen to be on Christmas Day, was her birthday on Christmas Day. And we went to church, went to someone's house, went to her birthday. went to another person's house once. Like, I think I ended up going to like 5 different places on Christmas Day that day. And I was like, I can't do this in Berlin. And none of all of the 5 places, only 2 were planned. Like when I stepped out of the house, like you can't even attempt this in Berlin. Max you're getting used to. So I guess like the size of the city. So that's the things that stick out to me so far. Oh yeah, the weather. As like we know, all you do is check the temperature before you leave the house to know if this is cold weather or short weather and all that. And all the times you used to come here as a visitor, like first coming in the summer, you assume that Amsterdam is hotter than Berlin. That's what the temperature tells you. Then I come here in the winter again, and like 14 degrees weather is rendering is keeping me on the bed where I'm like 4 degrees won't do that to you in Berlin, but 14 degrees is telling you to sit down inside your house. So that's weird because of like it rains a lot and it's more humid than Berlin. So that's something I'm still trying to get used to. How the weather does not correlate to what I'm used to.
So it feels much colder in Amsterdam than Berlin.
Yes.
Interesting. Because, oh my God, I hate Berlin cold and winter so much. It's just very depressing. Like, but if someone is going to move from Nigeria and they want to make a choice between Berlin and Amsterdam, which city would you advise them to pick and why?
It always depends. Like it depends on your specific situation. Like if I had to boil it down to something, it depends on how much you're coming with. So how much you're going to be taking home at the end of the day. Like that's going to probably be my number one criteria. Depends on your specific situation. If you're single, if you're married, how much you're making, how much you're going to be taking home. You have to look at all those things and see which one works for you. Because like I just said, cost of living is something that is going to be staring at your face from day one. And if you want to be like, do you prefer to stay like indoors or if you prefer to stay outdoors? So all these things depend. Like my experience probably will not be the default for every other person, like probably not replicated for every other person. But I think like in terms of like outdoorsy, as much as Amsterdam probably has a nicer summer weather, I prefer the Berlin outdoors so far than the Amsterdam outdoors. But again, it depends on so many things. So I can't just give a templated diagnosis.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, because Berlin is also big and it's quite spaced out, which is one of the reasons why you can't do like 5 things in one day. By the time you go from one end of the ring to the other, you're already tired. So yeah, so definitely it makes sense that there's more space in there. What about tax? How is like because I know that the tax in Germany is crazy. Is it still the same thing in Netherlands? Do you find that with the same take home, or if you're earning the same salary in Netherlands and in Berlin, of course, we establish that cost of living is higher there. But how about the taxes and just the things you need to pay to the government in general? How is it in Amsterdam?
I'm still figuring out those things out, like specifically. It's actually funny because before I left Nigeria for Germany, could have been consultants for German because we knew everything about tax law, but in a whole different tax regime. We're trying to learn everything from scratch. But I know in terms of numbers, the tax regime is almost similar. It's give or take probably 100, 200 euros, that's difference. But two things that the two countries have separately, like we file taxes in Germany and we get monies back, like the amount you can possibly get back. If you compare how much you can get back per year in Germany, this is how much you can get back per year in Netherlands. I think how much you can get back in Germany is more in my experience so far in interacting with people. So that's the number of things you can deduct from your taxes are more in Germany than Netherlands. Well, I know the Netherlands has something that they call for expats that they call 30% ruling, which is for 5 years. If you are an expat who move from outside of the Netherlands, outside of 150 kilometers from the Netherlands within the last 2 years, you get taxed. 30% of your income is tax free for the duration of 5 years. So that's one thing they do to help offset that cost of living increase within those 5 year period. So those are two different things in terms of taxes that I've noticed so far.
I think that's actually a very good. That's a good incentive, and that makes a big difference in the selection, right? So you might take like the higher cost. You might want to pick Berlin for the higher cost of living, but they don't give any rebates to expats or immigrants. Actually, as an immigrant, you pay more taxes, which is which can be annoying. But Netherlands has this rebate thingy, which I think makes sense, at least for 5 years. So it's a good incentive for you to stay there, since is there also like a skills shortage there? Because I know in Germany there is. Are there occupations and jobs that they're looking for people from outside the Netherlands to fill in?
Yes, there. I think they also have a different visa. I call like a high skilled migrant visa. So people within those skills lists under that visa. I mean, we are all technically on the resident permit or a blue card, but like different visa types is still the same thing, just like the visa type.
Makes sense. Okay, so I want to talk about your finance, because that, like I said, I didn't know you were a finance person. How did that happen? Like, when did you become a finance person? Why? Like, what's kind of like started your interest in finance generally? Did you do any courses? Did you work in finance? And then how did you either pivot or combine it with tech? That's the history in there.
I can't really, at this point, I can't pinpoint where it started, but I probably read a bunch of books, then try to apply them to your personal life, or you just see stuff happening around the world and you're like, this would be nice. If I had to talk about it, that I started my career working in a bank in Nigeria, so of course that helps. But I already had that, I would say, affinity. Like something people don't know about me is that I'm actually a chartered accountant in Nigeria, even though I'm a computer engineer by training. So yeah, and that happened before I started working in the bank. And yeah, so I guess that's like, there are so many things that happened before I got there. I was like, money is nice. Managing money is nice. Managing people's money is nice. And playing around with money and numbers is nice. Learning about money is nice. And then happened to be working in Nigeria at a time where everyone was trying to like digitize money in any way, shape, or form. So I was like, hey, I I know how to write code. I like money. So perfect marriage at the time.
Interesting. So are you chartered with like ICANN or ACCA?
Yeah. No, I can't.
Well, ICANN. That's so interesting, because did you do the ICANN after uni or while you were still in university?
After university, I think I started doing NYSC, then finished after like 1 year, 2 years into my career.
I said that's interesting because I started ACCA. I'm an ACCA dropout. So I did up to F5. And I was just like, yeah, because for me, I was like, I wasn't seeing maybe, I don't know if I wasn't seeing, so I was a bit brainwashed that, oh, the money is in finance. And I kind of still agree with that. I didn't see like a full career path. So as soon as I did my convocation in June, in July, I was already in ACCA classes. And then I was doing it throughout my NYSC. I think I stopped because there was one particular exam I just was not passing. I did this like 2, 3 times and I was just like, yeah, this is getting frustrating. Then I got a job in tech and I'm just like, yeah, you know what, I might as well. So I think it's very interesting because it also helps the fact that I have that background, at least a bit, and also have computer science. It really helps me become a products person. So what was your own transition into products management in general? Why products management, since you already know how to code? And then how did you start building your career in there?
It's also part of the journey. I think there was sales. Like I actually started, there was a point where I started a business with my cousin where we were trying to do like just build this thing and sell it to someone. And to be honest, we built a Shopify clone. Like even the name of the company was called Shopity with a T. And the only reason we built that business was just to sell it and make money because that's what everyone was doing. He ended up working for Jumia, so that's good. And I went to go work in a bank. And then in bank, I wasn't writing code at the beginning. I was doing pure institutional sales. That's when I was finishing my account. So I was like, just keep doing this thing. Then the opportunity to work within like the engineering team of the bank came up. I took it and then it died a few times. Then just one day, if I think my manager goes like, because we build stuff for like the institution, I was building stuff for the institutional customers, not the retail customers first off. So my manager goes, hey, you used to work with these people that come to the store, so like the sales people. You used to work with them, so you understand their language. I don't want them in this office anymore. So you know what? You're going to go on their business calls with them, and you're going to come back and summarize that for us. And you just be the bridge, and you still do your work. You just be the bridge because I don't want them in this office anymore. So that first of all started. So of course you didn't know it was product management you were doing because you had to do your work. And then like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Just take those courses, try to like broaden the horizon. And then at the time I was like, yeah, I might just take the full dive into this career path and make the full switch. So that's how it started.
So when you were doing it, you didn't know you were doing product management. So at what point did you know, okay, this is product management and actually this is a career path I can follow? And did you actually even like it then, like compared to then like coding? Like, yeah, after you started doing it, how did you then move to then saying, now I'm getting a job and now my title is product manager?
I think I liked it. And because like when you're kind of just focused on writing code, you're just trying to move a Jira ticket from in progress to done, for lack of a better word, trying to close the tickets, you're trying to finish your bug and everything. Most time, I'm not trying to speak generally, but in that environment, you're really not trying to see the end to end of why you're doing what you're doing. You're just trying to move it gets to done. So that allowed me to take a step back, see like the overall numbers, like how it impacted us. Think my sales and sales background also helped me, not like the company in this way, but it helped me because I wanted to always see like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the real impact? Think we built something, like we built a loan application. And I remember making a presentation for my manager and he was like, hey, put more numbers. And then I saw the numbers. I was like, that's not possible. It was like being able to see that this is something that we built over a couple of sleepless nights and 300,000 people have used it in like 5 days. Like you won't see that if you're just focused on moving your ticket to done in some environments, but being able to see that thing and speaking with customer service teams to get the actual complaints was like, this is giving me an end-to-end view of what we're doing. And I was also sink my teeth into it.
That's interesting. So how did you then build on top of the skills because you started your work? How did you build on top of the skills that you then became a product manager who could say, I have product management experience in Nigeria and then I'm going to work in Europe and still gets the job? Because I find that a lot of people, what they're doing in Nigeria is not really product management. So when they're interviewing or when they're trying to get the roles, it's not translating. It feels like, yeah, it's not the same thing that they're doing in Nigeria that they're doing in Europe. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's just a different branch, but what kind of like things did you do to build yourself up so you could work in multiple contexts? I guess that's summarizing that question.
I've heard the sentiment a lot. I think we actually spoke about it during one of our like meetings. I've heard the sentiment a lot, and I'm going to be honest and say that that wasn't my reality. So I'm going to call it luck. Like I've heard it a lot. I'm not discounting that that's what happens. People say it, but maybe it's just the situation of like where the places I worked or in the roles I worked that made this particular thing not my reality. So being able to get end-to-end view, knowing that you're actually building, deciding this is what we're building because this is what customers want, or this is what customers are saying they want, or this is the value we're going to offer customers. And then I can translate that into any company because with work on my side, translate that into any context with the work on my side versus where, like you said, where we speak with people and they're like, what they spent their time doing was chasing after developers and they now have to figure out like build what customers want. So I'm going to acknowledge at this point, I was probably luck on my part that I did not have that context or I did not have to fight to make that context switch. It was already something I was used to. It was already something else part of my background. So it was easier for me.
No, I think that's actually good because for a lot of people, it's also not their fault. It's the kind of business that you work in. People don't understand like product led organizations or how to. People just they like a lot of people are working in small businesses where the owners are like the product people, and they don't even need a
Yeah.
product manager yet. So the product person comes in, and then you're basically a salesperson or you're working in marketing, just trying to figure out how you can get more people using the product. You're not really thinking about how to make the product user friendly, also like business focused in a way where it can stand alone by as itself because somebody's already making that decision and it's probably someone that doesn't have the skills to do it. So that's where I find that the disconnect comes in. Awesome. Okay. So then what would you say for people that, because I know there are lots of products people that want to move. So they're in Nigeria or they're in, not even just Nigeria. Like I had a call recently with someone in, I think, Bangladesh or so. I've had calls with people in multiple contexts and they want to maybe not move to Europe, but they want to do something that's different. They want to work in like a product-led organization. They want to travel. They want to be able to build the kind of lifestyle that's they aspire to. And in a way, the kind of life that is projected, you moving from Nigeria to Germany, is kind of like the goal for a lot of people. So people in that situation or where you were, I would say maybe 5 years ago, what would you say to help them move a bit faster or in the direction you went?
Don't have anything to say to anybody to make them move faster. I'm sorry, because like when you make it that way, it sounds like I'll be, yeah, I'll be celebrating like actively working for 10 years, 11 years this year. And I've had various roles in those 11 years. I still haven't gone to school, which is something like I keep, every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, you still haven't gone to school, which is the first thing I wanted to do. Like, I've written code, I've entered the streets and sold. I have decided to sit behind and speak to customers and done customer service and everything. So it's the only advice I can give people is really just if you have the time, if you have the bandwidth, if you have the privilege, do as many things as you can do. And all those skills kind of make you a well-rounded person or a well-rounded professional. And over time, you are going to make choice of what you want to spend. I don't want to say the rest of your life, but what you want to spend is significant the next 3 years, the next 5 years doing. You're going to figure it out yourself. Like you can't rush the process. You don't even know what the process is. That's the first thing. But with the spirit of hindsight, like be intentional. Like people, I think we should all be doing our best, especially those of us who have the spirit of hindsight, who know like we kind of did many things to fall into this place, try to get the next set of people coming behind us to be more intentional about these things. Like if I had to do it all the way again, going to probably spend 18 hours doing all those case studies on LinkedIn everyone is doing now, like building a portfolio of personal projects that I can showcase, not just the institutional things that you can showcase, like not those things that you can share, building a portfolio, so like being as intentional as possible. It's like the same way engineers or even accountants and finance professionals are intentional about their career. Maybe we should also employ that same intentionality in tech. So that's probably the only thing I'll share.
I think honestly, you couldn't have answered it better. And then, like, what you have said makes sense. So maybe sometimes you can't rush the process. You just need to go through the process. But combining that with being intentional and trying as many things as possible, you would get to whatever it is the goal you've set for yourself would be. And it's also very interesting, like the case studies. So you actually do think that having case studies and putting them out there, do you think that helps people get jobs, especially as products people?
I don't know what helps people get jobs. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to say I don't know what helps people get jobs. I know about getting your hands dirty because I like getting my hands dirty. And it's more like there are some things I've done in my career that I can't share because they are proprietary. So that's where case studies help and personal projects because now you're getting your hands dirty on things that are not proprietary at the end of the day, they're your property versus the things like at this stage, most of the things like I see you come out and you see someone, you see a company you've worked on do something amazing and you're like, worked on that thing, but you can't see it anymore because you don't work there anymore and it's their property, not yours. So that's where I don't know what to tell you to get a job, but I know what to tell you to do in terms of getting your hands dirty. Because now it's my word saying I built that, but there's no proof because it belongs to the company. It doesn't belong to me.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Because true, getting the job is so subjective. It's dependent on the recruiter, dependent on the company. I don't know if there's an actual framework or skill that would say this is what will get you the job, but at least that you can do some things that will get you in the door and then everything else would figure itself out, hopefully. Nice.
Okay.
I really like your answers to the questions. They're also very helpful for me. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is also your fitness. I know that you mentioned at the beginning that you are running every day. Why?
So I I don't know why. So like there's no deep reason for this. But 2 years ago I did that thing where I didn't drink for 1 year and I ended up doing it for 18 months. So I was like, hey, what's something I'm going to do every day this year as well? Like that time it's something you're not going to do every day. So how about something you're going to do every single day this year? And I looked at the things I already do. I didn't want to do something that was too new to me because that makes it hard, or like something I already was doing. And going to the gym every day is arbitrary because you can go to the gym and do exercise. So it was like, I'm going to run every day. And first, I started with like, hey, I'm going to run 3K every day, but like on some days are bad. I'm just like, let's just make this a time based thing. So running every day so far.
You
I
said
don't know if I'm going to do.
3K every
I don't
day.
know if I'm
That's
going to finish.
mad.
That was the original goal, what kind of had to adjust it when life reality sets in. Like when you quickly need to run for like 10 minutes, that's not tricky. So just check it off and tomorrow will be better.
Yeah. No, when I run 1K, I'm on top of the world. I'm like, everybody must know I'm posting. I'm like, so talkers of 3K, that's like a crazy goal. But I like that. Like, so you started with, okay, well, this is what I wouldn't do. And you already did that, was successful. You were successful. And now what you would actually do. Do you think it helps you anyway in your mental health? Do you think it helps you meet people or even in conversation, just generally in this, like your running goal itself? Now, how has it helped you?
So I was laughing because that was also the same thing you guys were asking me to drink it. And again, I do not recommend this. This like whether like not recommending it to anyone. I don't know why I'm doing this. Some days I'm like, who sent me? I'm being honest. On some days I'm like, who sent me? Like, why am I doing this to myself? So I mean, I guess in the long run, it's like discipline, consistency, those arbitrary things. So yes, I'm gaining or building those muscles, but really for most of the time, probably has taken the fun out of it for me on some days. Like when I'm like, shit, like I have an alarm if I haven't done like a timer or a reminder, so to speak. Like shit, I have to go and run. Like that's no more fun in that moment. So, because on some days, like it's fun for most parts, but when it's now like I have to go around, sorry for my language again, it's now taking the fun out of it. So I won't recommend this to anyone.
No, but I wouldn't do it every day just because I'm not the most disciplined person. But I find it admirable. Actually, what I'm doing is Duolingo every day for this year. And sometimes I'm just like, who sends me a message? Like, to be honest, I don't really want to learn this language, but I'm pushing myself. But I think that these things yield results in the future. However we want to put it, you might not know why you're doing it now, but really our subconscious sometimes pushes us to do things that help us later on. So I have done some challenges where it's like, are you crazy? Like, why exactly are you doing it? But in hindsight, I'm like, because I did this, I learned something, or because I did this, I have a conversation to talk about that makes me even more interested. It could be that very tiny things, but I really believe in the power of your subconscious really telling you what to do, even when right now it doesn't make sense, but it would help in your future.
Yeah, you're right. It's at least it's a good conversation starter.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can be one of those people who club or at meetouts at 11:30 doing their Duolingo.
Yeah, I am. I am. And then I found I went to a house, like a games night, and it was like 11:45. Everyone was like, oh, Duolingo. So I was like, I'm not the only one. We're like five people. We're like five people trying to keep our streak for the next day. I need to do Duolingo for today. But yeah, I guess it's also really nice because also as you get older, sometimes you start to question why you're doing things. But you just sometimes you want to do things just because I can do it, right? So like, why not? Just do it. That's yeah. I think that's the part with running. But also you play football. And then I know that once you did break a leg with football, right? That's
Yeah.
something you want to talk about. Like how much of a sports person are you? And like why is that like I would say I've heard some people talk about like being a sports person has it helped them like with when you immigrate, for example, you get to meet people. But is there a particular reason why and do you recommend it to people like in picking up a hobby, like a sports hobby like you've done, and just what it has done for you just generally, going to the gym, playing football, all of that?
Yeah, it helps actually helps with meeting integrating with like the environment and meeting people. So like that definitely helps. Not only like you're trying to keep active or maintain this hobby that you enjoy, like that one is definitely still enjoy it. It's not work, thankfully. So like you enjoy it and you meet with people. I remember like I used to tell like we used to make this joke about like on like football, like in Berlin we used to play on like Fridays or Saturdays. I used to make this joke the like not because of the football we're coming here. This is literally the only place I've spoken pigeon this whole week. Like that's something like this is literally the only place I've spoken pigeon English this whole week. Everybody keeps saying like when you move somewhere, you like interact with the locals and assimilate with the locals. Yes, that's a fact. My colleagues are locals, my neighbors are locals. We speak the language or say hi in the language. But sometimes I just want to say how far. Like bros alpha. Sometimes you just want to say that, and when you realize you're in a place, you probably can't say that in the week. It's either on a phone call or in person on a football pitch. You have to go to the football pitch.
Oh my God, that is actually so true. Because that's the thing too. Even with like the community that we have here, people are like, see, the only reason I'm coming for this meetup is so that I can see another black person like me or talk to, and then I just want to hear a Nigerian accent because everywhere I'm straining my ears to hear what they're saying. And it does so much for us also as like immigrants, just like the whole community around something like a common cause or like a hobby that you guys share in common. And which then leads me to talk about also with immigration, because we've spoken about like you making friends, but also what would you say? Maybe I should phrase it like this: what's the thing that you miss most about Nigeria or back home now that you're here, and how do you make up for it?
I didn't hear the last part.
Oh, I said, what's the thing that you miss most from back home now that you're here? And how do you make up for it? What's like, how, like, just like you said, at home you speak pidgin, but then you go play football. So maybe here people speak pidgin, right? Just a random, just using the example you give now. But what's the thing, or what are the things you miss most from back home? And how do you make up for it now that you are in the abroad?
I think the I don't know. Okay, I'm back. I think the thing I miss most, and it was actually I was personally with a few people this weekend. It's like everyone says food, but it's not just that because you can make your food here. So what I really miss most, like Nigerian pepper, like the rodo pepper that is really like that has flavor, not just like spicy or it's hot, which is what we find here. It really has its own flavor and taste. So it's just that specifically like eating food that is made with Nigerian pepper because of how much flavor it has. Like every other thing that I would have missed in the last 2 years, I don't think I miss them as much now because like gone back to Nigeria, I've been to places with like strong Nigerian communities, so you can get those things even here within the Nigerian communities, and then you're like, okay, you don't miss that as much. But with the pepper, it's like, okay, you taste it and you're like, yes, this is what we don't have here. But the downside to that is like with increased absence from Nigeria, you start to build a resistance to Nigerian pepper. So I guess that will balance itself out in the future.
Funny enough, I don't like Nigerian pepper for me. Maybe because I brought too much with me. I'm like a lot of my food tastes like Nigerian food, so I don't relate when people say they miss the pepper or they miss the food. I'm getting the food. I'm like I'm making. I like to make food myself, so I'm making it, and I have all my spices and ingredients. And then there are also places where I can get it. So for me, I don't miss it as much. I think I miss like other things, but the food. But that's also interesting. Cool. So yeah, so coming to the end, I knew we were going to talk for at least an hour. Like this has never been shorter. But what would you say now? What like now that you're here, and then now here meaning you're in a new country, you decided to call it home. What would you say is the next step for you? What's one thing that you're really looking forward to in life, or not just generally, just in life? What's something you're looking forward to? Like what's next for you? What's something you want to do that you're willing to share?
Um, I actually haven't thought about it like that. It's just like trying to take it one day at a time, like especially in my case where it's like you move from one country to another. So currently it's just trying to figure out this new country, at least clock 1 year first and have strong opinions and have experiences like you just finish one tax cycle at least in your new country. Then decide what next. So right now, taking it one day at a time and figuring out this new country.
Nice. That's also very important. And that's all my questions for you. Is there anything that you would like to add that we didn't talk about? Or any parting words you would like to tell your fans out there?
You're the one who has fans. You're the one we all want to be like when we grow. So yes, thank you for having me on your podcast.
You'll be very surprised. You'll be very surprised at your fans out there. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I actually really learned a lot from you, and I always enjoy talking to you and your wife. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it helps, actually helps with integrating with just like the environment and meeting people. So like that definitely helps. Not only like you're trying to keep active or maintain this hobby that you enjoy, like that one is definitely you still enjoy it. It's not work, thankfully. So like you enjoy it and you meet with people. I remember like I used to tell like we used to make this joke about like on like football, like in Berlin, we used to play on like Fridays or Saturdays. I used to make this joke see, like it's not because of the football we're coming here. This is literally the only place I've spoken pigeon this whole week. Like that's something. Like this is literally the only place I've spoken pigeon English this whole week. Everybody keeps saying like when you move somewhere, you like interact with the locals and assimilate with the locals. Yes, that's a fact. My colleagues are locals, my neighbors are locals. We speak the language or say hi in the language. But sometimes I just want to say how far, like bros how far. Sometimes you just want to say that, and when you realize you're in a place you probably can't say that in the week, is either on a phone call or in person on a football pitch. You have to go to the football pitch.
Oh my God, that is actually so true. Because that's the thing too, even with like the community that we have here, people are like, see, the only reason I'm coming for this meetup is so that I can see another black person like me or talk to, and then I just want to hear a Nigerian accent because everywhere I'm straining my ears to hear what they're saying. And it does so much for us also as like immigrants, just like the whole community around something like a common cause or like a hobby that you guys share in common. And which
Yeah.
then leads me to talk about also with immigrating because we've spoken about like you making friends, but also what would you say, maybe I should phrase it like this, what's the thing that you miss most about Nigeria or back home now that you're here, and how do you make up for it?
I didn't hear the last part.
Oh, I said, what's the thing that you miss most from back home now that you're here, and how do you make up for it? So what's like how like just as you said, at home you speak pidgin, but then you go play football to maybe hear people speak pidgin, right? Just a random, just using the example you give now. But what's the thing, or what are the things you miss most from back home, and how do you make up for it now that you are in the abroad?
I think the I don't know. Okay, I'm back. I think the thing I miss most, and it was actually I was discussing with a few people this weekend. It's like everyone says food, but it's not just that because you can make your food here. So what I really miss most is like Nigerian pepper, like the rodo pepper that is really like flavor that has flavor, not just like spicy or it's hot, which is what we find here. It really has its own flavor and taste. So it's just that specifically like eating food that is made with Nigerian pepper because of how much flavor it has. Like every other thing that I would have missed in the last 2 years, I don't think I miss them as much now because like I've gone back to Nigeria, I've been to places with like strong Nigerian communities, so you can get those things even here within the Nigerian communities, and then you're like, okay, you don't miss that as much. But with the pepper, it's like, okay, you taste it and you're like, yes, this is what we don't have here. But the downside to that is like with increased absence from Nigeria, you start to build a resistance to Nigerian pepper. So I guess that will balance itself out in the future.
Funny enough, I don't like Nigerian pepper for me. Maybe because I brought too much with me. I'm like a lot of my food tastes like Nigerian food, so I don't relate when people say they miss the pepper or they miss the food. I'm getting the food. I'm like I'm making. I like to make food myself, so I'm making it, and I have all my spices and ingredients. And then there are also places where I can get it. So for me, I don't miss it as much. I think I miss like other things, but the food. But that's also interesting.
Cool. So yeah, so coming to the end, I knew we are going to talk for at least an hour. Like this has never been shorter. But what would you say now? What like now that you're here, and then now here meaning you're in a new country, you've decided to call it home. What would you say is the next step for you? What's one thing that you're really looking forward to in life, or not in just generally, just in life? What's something you're looking forward to? Like what's next for you? What's something you want to do that you're willing to share?
I actually haven't thought about it like that. It's just like trying to take it one day at a time, like especially in my case where it's like you move from one country to another. So currently just trying to figure out this new country, at least clock 1 year first and have strong opinions and have experiences like you just finish one tax cycle at least in your new country, then decide what next. So right now, taking it 1 day at a time and figuring out this new country.
Nice. That's also very important. And that's all my questions for you. Is there anything that you would like to add that we didn't talk about? Or anything, any parting words you would like to tell your fans out there?
You're the one who has fans. You're the one we all want to be like when we grow up. So yes, thank you for having me on your podcast.
You'll be very surprised. You will be very surprised at your fans out there. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I actually really learned a lot from you, and I always enjoy talking to you and your wife. But yeah, thank you very much.